Hope you guys don't mind. I've been talking with a fellow game developer from Brazil, and he is absolutely livid over the fact that his business is now affected by this. Because he was using Twitter in order to promote his game, had a pretty big community there, and now he can't use it. And I suggested that he joins the leftist party of Brazil because I see that the people associated with the government on the left, for some mystical reason, they can still use Twitter. It's the hallmark of a communist regime. It's where, you as an average citizen, you don't have access to all the amenities, you don't have access to all the cool shit. But if you're an inner party member, all of a sudden the door's open for you. This is something Milton Friedman said, that when he went to the Soviet Union, he noticed that the people in charge, they had access to luxurious cars that the average citizens didn't. And it's what happens in communism, pretty much. We call it communism, but in reality, what it is, it's a group of people that kind of become like the aristocracy and don't care about the country. Like, they only care about themselves, enriching themselves, and making everyone a slave. And they use some sort of ideology to justify it, but at the end of the day, it's just like people that are power hungry, and they create their own little dynasties. Whether it's communism, whether it's a religious theocracy, it's the same shit. So, what happened in Brazil? Well, apparently, a judge... I was always surprised by this. It's like, why is a judge doing this? Like, shouldn't it be a lawmaker? Like shouldn't this come down with a legislation? And apparently, Elon Musk just said that this judge is the dictator of Brazil. He's not a judge. He wears the judge as a costume. He has supreme executive, judicial, and legislative powers. And the cloak he wears is a trick fools in the West into thinking he's a judge. So I assume that Elon Musk is right because I can't imagine like in any other country where a judge has this level of power. Like usually judges, they can interpret the legislation. They can, in the case of the United States, like you have a Supreme Court judge and he can interpret the Constitution. But I wouldn't be able to see like in America a judge making these sweeping decisions for the entire nation. Like, this is a little bit bizarre. So, if he is actually like a dictator, then that makes sense. Like, his position may be a lot more encompassing than that of average judges. Elon is right, except about electric cars. They suck. Well, he just wants you to buy his electric car. So, he's going to say whatever you need. Like, he's a car salesman, de facto. Anyway. No, see, this is another thing. Like, the systems aren't democratic. It's not democracy. I mean, look at France, right? So in France, people are sick and tired of Macron's shit. And that is painfully obvious. Because you have the yellow vests. You have the European Union elections where right-wingers managed to sweep Paris. Sorry, not Paris, France. But you also have, like, the current elections where people voted either for the extreme right or the extreme left. They didn't vote for Macron. And now Macron is not going to pick one of the candidates from the winning parties in order to form a government. Why? Because he doesn't want to. And it's the same shit in Britain. Like in Britain, people have consistently voted for Brexit ever since the referendum because they're against migration. And yet migration happens regardless. So, no, it's not democratic. Like, it's not what people want. But you look at the percentages and, okay, well, this party managed to win this amount of votes. And the thing is, like, most people don't vote anyway. Like you have very low record turnouts. Most of the people don't vote. So you have, like, what? Like, 20%, 25% of the people that actually do go vote. Most of them don't vote for the establishment, and yet the establishment still wins. So no, it's not democratic. No, he never swam in that river, no. Well, yeah, see, that's the thing. It's like, people say voting does literally nothing. So if you have only 20% of the people that vote, it's a lot easier for the establishment to just manipulate those 20% of the people than to manipulate 100%. So yeah, if voting doesn't matter, why don't you go and vote anyway? It doesn't matter. Just fucking do it. But the reality is that they do not have like the consent of most people. They don't even have the consent of the majority because you don't have 50% of the people turning out to vote. So anyway, right. Not in Australia, mandatory voting. Yeah, there's a couple of countries like that. But anyway, the interesting thing is like, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to protest? Well, you can't really, because everything. How do you organize a protest? Like, if you try to organize it online, everything you say is listened in, right? Like look what's happening in the UK. Like, people are having an opinion on Facebook, they get arrested. They have security cameras everywhere. They have the ability to debank you. They have the ability to track all of your financial records. And then they also have the ability to sick the cops on you. So, like, people can't even protest. I mean, they tried striking with the truckers in Canada. Look how that went out, right? It's like all of a sudden the banks have the ability to take away your shit. So yeah, like this is the reality. And the other reality is that a lot of people are cheering for this, because it's not like the people against the government. No. It's like there are people that support this and want more of it. It's similar to other communist revolutions. It's similar to the Great Leap Forward in China, right, under Mao. Like, same shit happened. I hope all is well. Well, not really. I mean, it was quite upsetting to hear a fellow developer from Brazil talking to me about how his business opportunities and promotion opportunities are completely down the drain because the government protects him from being misinformed. You know, like, this is something. What about your right to be misinformed? Like if I had the ability to write propaganda for a politician, I would say the right to be misinformed. It should be a human right. Like, if I want to be misinformed, I demand it. I crave it. I want to be misinformed. Why is the government not allowing me to be misinformed? I want to hear the misinformation. So basically what's happening now in Brazil is that they are taking away the right to people to be misinformed because they're banning Twitter from Brazil. Okay. But you can't use a VPN. Apparently this is also a law that they made up. So if you use a VPN in Brazil, the punishment is $8,000 fine. I want to point out, most Brazilians probably don't make that much in a month. So, and it's per day, right? It's per day. So if you use a VPN for 5 days, that's 40 grand. That's the price of a house in Romania. Obviously, they like if everyone were to use a VPN, they wouldn't be able to lock everyone up. But they would probably set a couple of examples. Lula wanted this form of censorship as well. I haven't heard from any pushback from him about this. What is interesting is that I haven't heard pushback from the American government about this. And there have been interviews with Tucker Carlson saying that the American government actually wanted this, that American-funded NGOs and the American embassy have pushed for this. Now, whether or not that's true, I don't know. But what I do know is that the Americans are very quiet about it. And I remember when an African nation, I think it was Nigeria, I may mistake with this, but it was an African nation which had their president banned from Twitter. And this was before an election, and it was under Jack Dorsey. So what the government did is they banned Twitter from that nation, right? So it's like, oh, you ban our president, we ban you. Oh, Joe Biden was upset. Oh, Joe Biden was livid. Democracy, free speech, freedom of expression, totalitarianism, authoritarianism. And they tried to leverage, American aid in order to stop that shit. We're going to punish you. We're not going to give you money. We do not trade with nations that are not on the democracy, authoritarianism. Now with Brazil... Oh, Uganda was it? Uganda. Yeah, it was Uganda. Okay, thank you for letting me know. Uganda. And now, crickets. Americans aren't concerned. They're no concern. So basically, when it's a government that America likes, mass censorship. Get the people to shut the fuck up. Just get the people to shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up. But when it's a government they don't like, free speech. Bring them free speech, social media, unleash the algorithms. If Brazil thought the USA would defend Elon, they wouldn't dare be so insolent. Well, what's interesting is that they fucked with Elon's other businesses. They fucked with other businesses from Elon, which is interesting because it's like, well, hold on a little bit. Like, your beef is with Twitter. Why are you going after Elon? But what's interesting is that the other businesses that Elon has, he's not the only owner. Like, he owns some stocks, but like Silicon Valley also has a lot of money in Elon's businesses. So they're fucking with Silicon Valley, and the Americans don't care. Hello, Katis. V, have you reached the esteemed title of decent person? Not yet. Not yet. I don't think it's achievable unless you become a leftist. Unless you justify that people should be censored. So Brazil is in prohibition right now. What was the punishment if they caught you drinking during the prohibition, though? Like, not producing alcohol, but just, you know, like they would catch you with an alcoholic bottle. They would catch you with a bottle of beer. What was the punishment? Come on, Americans, you gotta know this. It's your history. Huh? Like, when you guys went full Saudi Arabia, what was the punishment? I swear to God, you look at America's history. How can a nation of such moral busybodies have such a based constitution? It doesn't make any fucking sense to me. Like literally, Americans cannot live unless they can control their neighbors. It's at that level. Like, if their neighbors does something which literally does not harm them in any way, shape, or form, they will somehow tie it. No, like, what my neighbor does is intrinsic to the culture that I live in. We are a nation full of people, and what my neighbor does, he's playing Dungeons and Dragons. He is ruining society. I must take that away from him, right? It's kind of like that. And with alcohol, there's like more of a concern there, because it's like, well, if my neighbor drinks, he can drive a car, and I could be in his way, and the alcohol influences his brain, so it is a danger to me. I must prevent my neighbor from drinking, right? And yet, for some fucking reason, you have the most based constitution in the entire world. I don't know how you did it. I just, it's unfathomable to me. It was a fine, and sometimes jail time, depending on the quantity. Okay, so I would say that right now in Brazil, it's even worse. Because the fine is $8,000. I don't think that even during the prohibition, you had such a fine. How would they know the quantity, though? Like, they didn't have any way of measuring how much alcohol you had. I guess it's like, well, so like if you're slurring and you can't speak, then it's a problem, right? It happens when you keep electing socialists and communists to do their thing. Well, did they elect them? You know, like, that's another conversation. Because I understand, like, the Americans, like, supplied Brazil with voting machines. I don't understand, like, what is the problem with the pen and paper? Like, when you have a paper and you put a stamp on it, apparently that is an evil system. Like, democracy cannot function like that. You need a voting machine. So, you know, at this point, like, why can't people just vote on the internet? Why do we have to actually go to the voting polls? Why can't you just open a website and you click your vote, right? Wouldn't that be, like, better? And apparently, the government of Bolsonaro was warned by the United States, by the agencies, to not cast doubt on these sacred machines. It's like the Adeptus Mechanicus from 40K, you know? Like, the voting machines are sacred. The machine spirit gets angry if you cast doubt. Yeah, in my country, we vote on paper. I think it's the best system. We also managed to count the votes quite quickly. Like there's no, you know, people go nappy, people go to sleep, they can't count the vote. You know, no, we don't have that shit. Taiwan does the same. Taiwan votes on paper, and Taiwan even records the counting in most places. Like, you can go online and you can see a lady, vote for red, red get one vote, vote for blue, blue get one vote. It's like, yeah. It was legal to drink and be drunk. It was prohibited to carry and produce alcohol. Oh, I see. So American Outlier misinformed me. See, I hope Lula cracks down on my comment section. I hope that judge from Brazil cracks down because it's filled with harmful misinformation. Foreign misinformation. It's from America. Holy shit. This is what the Democrats mean when they say we must save our democracy. It's their democracy. Well, yeah, they're not lying. When they say our, right, as a Democrat, they mean the Democrats. It's also diversity is our strength. Yeah, it's their strength. This is what, alright, it apparently violates the American Disability Act. I heard that. I don't know how. Here is how you go around the issue, because we have that problem as well here in Romania, right? Like, let's say you have a person that's blind, and they need to vote. How does the blind person vote? Class, can you tell me of a system where we can decide how the blind person gets to vote? I mean, they're a citizen, right? They should have a right to vote. What if, I know this sounds a little bit far-fetched and difficult to implement, but what if the person who is blind, I don't know, nominates someone else they trust, like a family member, a close friend, you know, someone that they trust, and that person walks with them in the voting booth, and they vote. Oh, Dios mío, no. Oh, such a thing can happen, yes. And by the way, that also happens with mail-in voting. Like, there is no guarantee that, for instance, if you're going to mail in your vote, that the person can't be under duress. Like for instance, the mother can say, you better vote properly or else I will not give you your allowance for next month. I mean, that is a possibility, right? So yeah, no, like in Romania, if you have a disability, you can actually file for the request of being associated by another person in the booth with you. And the person with disability shows up with the other person, and they're like, yeah, this is my caretaker. He's going to help me vote. They allow him in the voting booth, right? They implemented mail-in voting in 2020, so they have a pen and paper system and conveniently a printer besides them for fortification purposes. Oh yeah, that's a good point. Like, how can disabled people vote by mail if they can't vote with a paper? So like, okay, so in America, according to the wisdom of the Democrats, if you're a disabled person, you can't vote in person. Like, you can't actually go to the booth and vote, but you can vote from home and then mail in your ballot. Am I following correctly? Is this the argument? I didn't mislead you. Check your Discord. Alright, hold on. So then Katniss misled me. It doesn't matter. An American misled me. Yeah, any person willfully violating any provision of Section 95 of this title. I love the fact that I'm willfully violating, right? So if you go to a party and they put vodka in the punch bowl, then you're not guilty, because you didn't know. They will be punished for each offense by a fine not exceeding $5,000. $5,000? Hold on. Did you guys have inflation back then? Or by imprisonment for not exceeding 1 year or above. Yeah, but like, hold on. Any provision of Section 95. Like, I need to see Section 95. Is it just like the consumption of alcohol or the production of it? Because this is what I asked. It's like, if you're caught drinking, right? It's not if you're caught producing or holding. No, like, the police officer catches you in the middle of a street and you're like, hey, officer, oh, nice flashlight you have there. Are you happy to see me? Or, right? Like, if you're like that, if you can't say your ABCs, but you can say your LGBTQs. MNOIPA++. No sight, no vote, says Stephen Hunt. But Stephen, you know what? Then you can go blind. Can happen to all of us. Old age is merciless to some people. And then you can't vote. What do you do then, Stephen? Huh? Why do you want to be disenfranchised? But it's not just like no sight. Like, if you have a person with no arms or some shit, you know, like, you can have a person in a wheelchair that's paralyzed, neck down. Like, Stephen Hawking wants to vote. How does he do it? It's like, he nominates a person that's his caretaker, and that's the person that's going to vote for him. In Canada, we have paper ballots, so we just use Braille. Yeah, but the problem with using Braille is that it doesn't account for other disabilities, right? So, like, again, for instance, you have the people in wheelchairs that are paralyzed, and they want to vote. Or you have a person that's blind and doesn't speak Braille. There's a lot of them. Like, for instance, being blind of old age, right? So, like, you're 95 years old, you're losing your eyesight, you're not going to know Braille. Like, sure, there may be people that bother, but there's others that don't, right? So, like, how are they going to vote? Back in the day, that was $1 million. Yeah, no, I think what American Outlier is saying here is the punishment for creating, right? Because, like, if you're creating alcohol, so you're part of, like, the mafia, or you have a bar, or you have, like, a place that sells it, then you could have $5,000 because you're making the money by selling the liquor. So by constantly selling the liquor, then you do have the money to pay the government, right? And it's also like a fine not exceeding. So, like, they can't fine you 10 grand, but they can fine you $100, right? So it's up to the discretion of the officer. Yeah, see, like, if you know a little bit of legislation, it doesn't look so out of place when you interpret it properly. Should people with mental disabilities vote? I don't know. Like, what type of disability? Like, autism? I think, like, people with autism are very based that they should vote. But no, like, if there is someone that's, like, presenting complete cognitive failure, like, they're a person that's like, I think, like, in most countries, they can't vote. Because you need an ID to vote, and in their ID it says that it's a person with special needs or something like that, and they can't qualify for many things. They can't qualify for a driver's license, they can't qualify to serve in the military, right? So, like, there's more restrictions. I don't know if they can or can't vote, though. But to be honest, like, the number of those people is probably so low that they can't swing an election anyway, so... Probably the people with the most amount of mental issues that vote are old people, right? Like, if you have dementia and you don't know why you're there and what you're doing, like the government can't stop you from voting, and they do vote. Yeah. Should people with schizophrenia vote? Yeah, there are so many types of schizophrenias, where some of them are, like, completely functional, like you can just go through your normal life while having it. So yeah. Again, like, we're talking about a number of people that's so small, it's insignificant. Like, the least of the... Like, that would be, like, on the final thing that I would care. Like, after you fix all the other issues, it's like, alright, should people with schizophrenia... they should definitely vote multiple times, yes. 10% of people have an IQ of 83 or less. Yeah, to be honest, I do think that Starship Troopers had it the correct way, where you needed to perform something. Like, you didn't have to serve in the military necessarily, like, service guaranteed citizenship, but you could have gotten citizenship through other ways, like serving in the police force, volunteering for some common good in society, which would put you in a lottery or something. But yeah, no, like, the concept of actually earning the right to vote rather than give it, I think that would be beneficial, but I don't know if there's such a system in the world right now. Like, no country has a system where you need to earn the right to vote by doing something, right? And of course, you know, the people in charge of deciding whether or not you get to earn the right to vote, like, they would have massive power. Which is probably why it's a bad system, because it would get corrupt. Like, people who say, oh, there should be an IQ test to vote. Okay, fine. Now have a leftist make that IQ test. You know, make the Democrats do that test. How do you think that's going to work out? Or you have, like, a certain... other people wanted, like, a civic test, right? Where they ask you, like, a couple of civic questions. All right, well, what if the Democrats ask you, is America systemic racist? And if you say no, then, well, your score goes down. And if you answer many questions incorrectly, then you don't get to vote, right? Like, do you not see the problem with what you're asking? The idea that, all right, well, the problem is that the system is corrupt, so we need to make more systems to fix the corrupt system. It's like, no. Should leftist communists vote? To be honest, yes, and I will tell you why. There aren't that many of them. Like, the reason they require censorship and all these manipulation tactics is because they're not popular. The only way they get in power is through underhanded tactics. And to be honest, like, the problem isn't communism, because a lot of people think that this is the issue. No, the problem is that you have individuals that are power hungry and the rest of society doesn't care. So like, for instance, I actually spoke with legal experts from the European Union. And I asked them, it's like, what do you think about COVID and free speech? Like, that was my two main concerns, my two main questions. Regarding COVID, they didn't think that the measures were disproportionate. They didn't think it's a problem that you need to show papers to your waiter. They didn't think it's a problem that, the censorship happened and the mass surveillance and all of that and lines where you got to report your neighbor. They don't think it's an issue, right? And these are legal experts from the European Union. And the other question was about free speech. And again, they don't think it's a problem. They don't even know the extent of censorship on social media. They do not believe that people are being censored based on political opinions. They just think that people are being censored for being rude. So, like, if this is where you start, how can you even swing the pendulum in any direction? Like how can you even begin to explain that, well, actually what's happening is kind of fucked up and we're moving towards China? Like they don't see that as a problem. If the Democrats made that test, it would be the most secure test ever. I keep saying about the movie Idiocracy, which is really upsetting to me that people give it as a bad example. Because Idiocracy shows the best president in fictional history. Like unironically, right? This guy right here is the best politician in fiction, and if he existed, he would be the best politician in the fucking world. So for those of you who don't know the plot, it was a man that's of average intelligence. Well, actually, no. In the beginning of the movie, it shows that dumb people are having lots of kids, right? So like they're showing these guys in a trailer, and they're having 10 kids. And meanwhile, the smart people, they're like, oh, we're the doctors. We just got married. We're not ready yet. And then they grow, and it's like, oh, I'm thinking about freezing my eggs. I don't know if I want to have a kid. And they end up not having a kid, right? So, like, the idea that in a movie you can suggest that IQ may be tied to genetics, like, it would never be allowed today. It would never fly. Like, ChatGPT would flag it. But this is the movie. This is the premise, right? So you have a guy of average intelligence, and he goes to cryo sleep, and he wakes up in the future when everyone is absolutely stupid. Like, they are incredibly dumb. And he goes to jail. I forgot, like, why. Oh, yeah, he didn't have his chip implanted, right? Because, like, everyone is tracked, everyone is chipped, and he didn't have a chip. So because of that, he's sent to jail, and while in jail, he basically says, yeah, I'm on the wrong line. I'm actually supposed to go out. And the people there believe him because they're that retarded, right? So while in jail, he does an IQ test, and it turns out he's the smartest person on earth. And the IQ test was like, if you have a bucket of 4 kilograms and another bucket of 5 kilograms, how many buckets do you have? Right? And it was like slotting in triangle and triangle hole. And can you do it in less than 5 seconds, right? So he scores like the highest level ever achieved. Now this guy is the United States president, and he is this famous fighter. Like he is basically a huge celebrity, right? Very popular, but he's very dumb. Like he's not smart like everyone else. And there is a problem with crops failing. Like he's having an issue with hunger in his country. So this is what's interesting. Like, what he does is he actually wants to fix the issue, and he gets the smartest people on Earth in order to fix it. And the guy, the main protagonist, having completed and getting the highest IQ, he gets a presidential pardon, and he's like, all right, well, you're going to come into my office, and I need you to fix the agricultural issue, right? Now there's a lot of things happening in the movie, but basically he does fix the issue. What does the president do? Congratulates him, puts him in front of the cameras, implements the solution, fixes the hunger, and then he steps down and allows the smartest man to become president. So Everyone mocks this movie. Everyone makes fun of it. It's like, oh, Idiocracy, this is what we're becoming. I wish we would become Idiocracy. I wish we would have politicians that actually do love their people, do care about their people's health, and do actually rely on others, not in order to empower themselves, but to actually fix the problems that exist. Because if this was a guy from the European Union that was smart, what he would have done is like, okay, so we have an agricultural problem, we can do rationing, we can make people even more reliant on us, we can make them reliant on welfare, and we already chip people, so like, what are they going to do? Are they going to rise up? No, they're not, because like they're already chipped, we're already monitoring them, right? So this is what like a modern politician would have done. But this guy, no, like this guy actually has soul at heart, and while he's not intelligent, it shows that a president doesn't need to be. American Outlier. I think from a selective service in order to vote. You don't have to go to work, just make it so that people will commit a number of hours to community service. Work at food banks, park services, etc. Yeah, this is what Starship Troopers had. But I don't think it's ever going to be implemented. Andrew Jackson was definitely one of the best presidents. I'm not kidding. Like I'm trying to find a fault with this guy, and I just can't find any. V, since we're already in Demolition Man, what's the next bad movie future we're headed to? China. Unironically. Yeah, China, but less successful. Because at least China still has its industry, like it still produces stuff. And is not on board with the whole environmental issue. Like they are giving lip service to it. They are pretending that, yeah, we're going to stop pollution. Yeah, maybe in 2050. Maybe in 2050 we'll go net zero. RoboCop? RoboCop is not as bad. Okay. Just so you know what we're talking about. This is my video for tomorrow, right? So this is happening in the United States right now. And let me see if I can find it. The reason I know about it is because someone uploaded it on Reddit, and it wasn't like the Reddit Jannies, right? No, it was like the actual company from Reddit stepped in. So you have like this person saying, an armed gang has taken over an apartment complex in Aurora, Colorado. So I don't know if you know about it from the news, but it's all over Twitter. Like people are showing images of actually armed thugs with AK-47s like going into an apartment complex and literally owning it. Like now they're asking rent from people. And the people there, they called the FBI, they couldn't do anything. They called the marshals, they don't do anything. They called the cop. No one wants to do anything, right? So the only thing you can do is to talk about it, but no, because you are interfering with the grand narrative of the managerial class, which is that there is no criticism, no drawback to mass immigration, right? So just shut the fuck up. Just stop talking about it. Just enough. So Reddit deleted it. What's interesting is that Colorado is a red state. So they're not that big on mass immigration. They're not Texas, right? But the mayor of the city is saying that the nearby state is a sanctuary city. I don't know if it's true or not, but, well. Escape from New York, Hunger Games. No one will do anything to help you, but God help you if you help yourself. Well, I already discussed about it. The way it works, like I thought that only my school had teachers this retarded, but no, after talking with many people, I realized that this was the case in many schools. So every single school had a bully, right? Like all of us, we had a bully, and none of this online bullying bullshit. No, like actual physical bullying, you know, like stealing your lunch money, beating you up, like that type of thing. And the school bully usually got a slap on the wrist, right? Like you would tell the teacher about the bully, and the teacher would be like, oh yeah, okay, well, Thomas, please never do that again. You know, like Thomas, yeah, you know, you done it again, Thomas. Right? So usually the bully He would get like minimal punishment, or sometimes the teacher would just not care. He would roll his eyes and sigh whenever you told him, yeah, Thomas beat the living shit out of me again. Like the teacher just wouldn't fucking care. Now, one day, someone would snap. Like, usually a student that wasn't the problem maker, he was actually good in class, but he would snap and he would beat the living shit out of Thomas. Or sometimes you'd have like 2 or 3 students that would go like, isn't Thomas annoying? Yeah, he is. Well, why don't we fucking do something about it, So, you would have like students ganging up on Thomas. And then Thomas would tell the teacher. And the teacher would just drop a pile of bricks on these students that normally aren't troublemakers. They're not doing anything, but they just had enough with Thomas's shit that day. And the teacher would be like, oh, I'm going to call your parents. Oh, how dare you get in front of the class. Oh, explain yourselves. Oh, I'm going to take disciplinary action. I'm going to make you sit after school and blah, 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 right? So why is it? Why is it that so many teachers had this teaching method? And eventually, when I grew up, I learned. It's because it's very difficult to discipline the bully. Sometimes the bully had parents that were well connected, and that's why he was the bully. It's because he was allowed. Right? Like maybe his mommy or maybe his daddy was fucking the teacher. Or maybe his mommy or maybe his daddy was donating a lot of money to the school. Or maybe his mommy or maybe his daddy actually worked at the school. It doesn't matter. But like the thing is, usually the bully was connected and he was privileged. And the reason he was a bully is because he was never getting disciplined. And he wasn't getting disciplined. If he was to get disciplined, then he wouldn't have been a bully. Right? So, because like they all allowed them to do whatever they wanted, is why they became cheeky little shits. But when someone stood up to the bully, oh, now it's a problem, because it's really easy to discipline people that don't create problems, that don't have someone to back them up, that they don't have parents that work at the school. So yeah, you got like the 2-tier discipline system, which made the bully even worse. Because now the bully knows, well, first of all, like he is competent in bullying, like he actually is capable of physically dominating other students. But if it happens that someone physically dominates him, then, well, the teacher is going to have his back. Maybe Camacho was secretly a genius because the Dunning-Kruger effect would suggest that a stupid person would double down on their stupid ideas. See, the thing is, I don't believe that the people in power are stupid. I think they're quite genius and smart at keeping power. I mean, look at Macron. Like, Macron managed to pull some political shenanigans in order to still remain in office despite his lack of popularity. I don't think he's stupid. I just don't think he's interested in raising the living quality standards of most French people. We all know that if Americans took matters into their own hands and solved the problem, the cops and the feds would go after those people immediately. Yeah, it's what I'm talking about. Like here's the thing. A lot of people in America is like, oh, this would never happen here because we have guns. Oh, yeah, we have guns. Yeah, but in this case, in Colorado, the gangs have guns as well. Everyone has guns. It's just that they're organized and law-abiding citizens, they're afraid, and rightfully so. Slightly disagree on that take. I think teachers go after the nice kid because they feel threatened by kids that stand up for themselves and go way further in life. I don't fucking know. I see, this was happening in 5th grade. I generally don't think that the teachers are thinking that ahead, even if it was true. Teaching is a job like the belt at the factory, nothing else. Yeah, I don't think they put that much passion back. Macron is like a woman that spends all her energy scheming ways to manipulate men. Well, he is definitely manipulating the French people, I'll give you that. What's the point of guns if you're not willing to glow post? Yeah, it is, but it's like really concerning, man. And this is how the government, well, how the establishment deals with the situation. Like, the very concept, dude, like I would be absolutely terrified if I saw on TV that in my city some gangs took over some apartments. Like that would be just, and of course, like you'd be livid at the politicians. It's like, how is this allowed? Like, I pay my taxes, I do everything right. Like, why do I have to live in a city where armed gangmen just take over apartment complexes. So what is the solution? Well, the solution is to stop talking about it. This is not happening. If you don't know about it, it's like, yeah. And it's also 2 apartments. Like that's the interesting one. So the question is, like, will it stop at 2, or are we going to see another? Like, what? I guess, like, at one point they lack the manpower to hold too many apartments, right? You need the numbers to intimidate people. Like, you can't. I pay all my taxes to the defense budget, but somehow foreigners took over an apartment. Well, yeah, but they're not foreigners, right? They're just undocumented. They have their documents. It's just not on them. Like, the documents are, maybe they lost them at home or something. People get way too arrogant from the Second Amendment. It's a component in the chain of self-defense, but this is a real threat, and even worse if cops protect the criminals. Cops don't even have to protect the criminals. They just have to ignore the criminals. Yeah, so like, the conversation started when people asked, are we heading to RoboCop? And I'm like, well, we're actually there. Like, we are literally at the RoboCop level, right? So, you know, like what else can happen? Historically speaking, usually when nations, like I really hate the word collapse, right? Because, like, what does a nation collapsing mean? Like, what are we talking about? Like, there's no government, there's no police. Like, is that what collapsing looks like? Like what exactly? There's no more administration, there's no more centralized, no, right? That's not what people mean when they say collapse. What they mean is, your living conditions lower dramatically. I think this is what they mean by collapse, right? So, basically, Great Depression level, right? Like, people have to sell their kids, people are starving, food is rationed, like that type of shit. Great Leap Forward, right? Notice how the Great Leap Forward didn't collapse China. It did kill millions, yeah, but, like, China is still there. So, like what happens historically when nations end up in destitute situations? Well, you either get a Napoleon, or you get a conflict. But either way, it's going to head to war. Now, what will look like in the modern age, I have no fucking idea, right? Because it doesn't have to be a world war. But just a war between 2 powerful nations. And usually, if it actually ends with a world war, then you actually get new type of thinking, you get new systems, new ideologies. Then you actually get a change in society. And then you actually can grow. Like America, for instance, if you look at America before World War II, incredibly impoverished nation, living standards very low. America, after World War II, one of the best nations on earth. The change in policy, thinking, like all of these, yeah, you can get a Napoleon or you can get a Lenin, yeah. The thing is, like, what we are moving towards is something that we haven't experienced in history. Because technology does play an important role. Like, human nature doesn't really change when you talk about masses. But what does change is the technology. And the technology changes everything, right? Like, now, people can instantly communicate with one another. Like, I can talk to you guys and you can hear me in real time. All of your financial transactions are tracked. All of your phone conversations and dialogue is tracked. Everything you do online is stored and archived. So you have almost no privacy whatsoever. So like, if there is, like, people are protesting, like truckers are striking, then the banks can just turn off their accounts. Well, what are you going to do? How are you going to strike? They can find out who pays you. You know, like, this whole refugee crisis, to me, it's hilarious because they keep saying, oh, the NGOs. If the government wanted, they could stop the NGOs. Like, they could look into the communication. They could find out who is paying them. Where are they coming from? Like literally all the information can be found if they wanted to, but they don't. Like if I was Meloni-chan from Italy, like how would you stop the migrant boats? Because a lot of people are saying, oh, well, you can open fire at them. And it's true, Australia did do that. Like Australia did do it, and they had no more refugee boats. But in the European Union, if you do something like that, oh, gross human rights violation, the EU starts punishing you, they start enacting articles after articles, right? Doesn't look good for the cameras. So how can you stop the NGOs? Well, it's simple. You make a law where you give like very harsh punishments for people that are smuggling migrants. So if you smuggle migrants inside the country, 20 years. And then you look up at the NGOs, you see who is actually doing it. You see a boat coming in. Okay, well, the boat came in. Perfect. You take the people in, because what are you going to do? But the person that drove the boat, the one that actually was driving the boat, 20 years in prison. And I guarantee to you, you do this for a couple of months and all the boats would stop. Because like no one would want to work for the NGOs. You seize their assets. Like, oh, it's a criminal organization now. They're doing crimes. Like the way they're, right? So it's simple. Like the solution is there, but there's no political will to enact it. So that's why you still have it. Love the troll house. Why thank you, Master Draft. NGOs are paid off by the government. Yeah, but like a lot of times you have like a different government paying it. So like for instance, like let's say you have the refugee boats coming in. It can be a government from the EU, like a different one, like France or Germany paying it. You don't know. It can be like a organization like George Soros. It can be Turkey. It could be anyone, right? So it doesn't have to be like the actual government. It doesn't have to be the Italian government paying it. You would still be attacked by the EU. New article after that. Yeah, it's kind of difficult, right? Because they usually have laws like this as well. Against trafficking and against other things. So, no. Trust me. It's, and even if you get attacked, well, it's kind of difficult then. Because you have like the entire Eastern Europe willing to back you on it. So it's not... It's not as easy. But if you start fighting on them, then yeah, then it's easy. Because even Eastern Europe would be like, well, I mean, even we don't do that. It's like, Turkey pays Algeria to ship to Britain. It doesn't surprise me. I thought the EU was supposed to be just an economic zone. Yeah, and people saying that it's a federal state where conspiracy theorists spreading harmful and dangerous misinformation against the prosperity of Europe. I know. It's all German NGOs. I haven't looked into it. But, like, again, I do not have the ability that the Italian government does, which would be to, you know, see where the banking transactions come from, actually interrogate the people on the ships, seize their phones and look through their phones to see who they're talking with, etc., etc., right? So I don't have like the resources to conduct an actual investigation. But if I was part of the Italian government, it would be found. Like it's not that I don't even think they're trying to hide. Yeah, NGOs mean not your government organization. Yeah, no, I know a lot of NGOs are paid by the government. Because like, otherwise, how would they make the money, right? I mean, they have phenomenally high amounts of wealth. So the government shouldn't be able to fund NGOs. Like, if I was in power, that would be probably the first law that I would draft. Because by definition, if you're a non-governmental organization, you shouldn't be able to get funding from the government. Like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. But there you go. And again, there's no political will to stop it because the establishment likes the NGOs. It does give like a level... It's all smoke and mirrors, basically, right? See, it's not the government doing it. Like, the government isn't censoring your ass. It's social media. You just violated the TOS. The government isn't actually importing migrants or anything. It's the NGOs doing it. And it's like, okay. The only based NGO is Andy NGO? Oh, God, the pun. Japan has been soyed. Well, it's also the globalization aspect. Like, let's be real. The fact that people can now travel using planes, and you can do in one day what people require 7 months to do, which is to go from the new world to the old world and vice versa. Yeah, you are going to have like masses of people moving, but like there's a difference between having masses of people moving by themselves, and it's a completely different thing to force the masses of people to move or to incentivize it. Make a law to cooperate with Ukraine to recruit soldiers and send all the migrants to fight in Ukraine. No, like one of the things that I heard the right-wing politicians suggest, and this was hilarious, it's like, okay, so these people are refugees, right? Like they're fleeing from war. Why don't we arm them and send them back? Obviously, because they know it's like, okay, so there is a huge difference in pictures when you look at people fleeing from war versus people fleeing towards welfare. And by the way, if you want to get rid of the immigration crisis, you cut the welfare altogether. Like, if you get rid of the welfare state, I guarantee to you all the problems just go away overnight. But, I mean, no, seriously, like you can't even sell it to people. It's like, how would you like to keep more than half the shit you make? We just get rid of all the welfare. And all of a sudden, if you're making 30 grand, now you can make 45 grand a month. But anyway, when you look at Google and you look at refugee crisis, you see pictures of manly men that are oozing with masculinity, right? Like usually shirtless, very muscular. I can definitely see why the women are like, refugees are welcome here. Because if I saw like a bunch of well-toned out succubi with plump tits and nice asses, I would be there too, much to the horror and dismay of my wife. I'd be like, no, refugees are definitely welcome here. What are you talking about? Stop being a bigot, woman. But when you saw the refugees coming from Ukraine, well, all of a sudden, the picture was different. It was a lot of women, children, and elderly. But predominantly women. And all of a sudden, the women in Britain that were like, refugees are welcome here, they were very angry. They were very upset. And they were very concerned. It's like, oh, we shouldn't allow them to come here because it's dangerous here. Like we saw men on social media that were trying to invite these refugees into their homes. And I actually looked at the Guardian article, and it was basically like men in Britain that were talking to these ladies that fled Ukraine. And they were like, hey, like I'm single. If you want, like we can have a relationship and we can sleep at my house. And it was consensual because like they're adults. They're not children, right? So it was consensual. It was basically like them talking to the refugees and seducing each other. I'm like, okay, well, we're going to make a nice couple together. Let's take the refugee in your home, right? Like what Britain wanted. But now that it was like Ushikushi Ukrainian ladies, oh no. If hot Ukrainian undocumented models are coming in from the border, I'd be for undocumented migrants as well. Yeah, I know. But think of the single mothers. Well, that was funny because like there was this story on social media where, again, like none of this story made sense, but like, okay, so let me see if I can find it. Ukrainian refugee breaks marriage husband. Let's see. So this story bewildered my wife, right? It's hilarious no matter how you look at it. But it does show that men act exactly like women when the shoe is on the other foot. So basically this guy was married. And he was married with a British lass. And I gotta say, I can't find a picture of her right now, but she's like below average. And it's normal. I mean, she's past the age of 35. I think she had kids. She's a little bit more plump. Right? Like she definitely is not a waifu. She's like a housewife that has been in a relationship, in a marriage for more than a decade, right? With this guy. By the way, is this a tattoo when you kill someone? Like, I know in some countries they draw a tear if you... Anyway. So the reason that my wife was bewildered is that they took this refugee into their home. And I asked my wife, it's like, look, I know, darling, that you're very permissible when it comes with me. Like you're allowing me to make an adult game, like you're fine with it. You're fine with, me leaving the house and then going to the restaurant alone and coming back. Like, you're fine with a lot of it. Would you be fine if we took this beautiful Ushkushi Ukrainian refugee lady in our house? And she was like, fuck no. Like even if you were to ask, like, I would immediately get angry and move to my mom. Right? Like, it's common sense, right? Like, defend your territory, woman. What the fuck? Like this is unheard of. Like imagine if you're in a relationship and you let this guy into your house. You didn't say no. A little bit of jealousy is healthy, and this is not even jealousy, it's common sense. Like, how can you let this succubasu into your house if you're married? Like, so, she did let her in, and guess what happens? To everyone's shock and surprise, the guy falls in love with her, and then abandons her. And again, like, I think they had kids, like, they were in a marriage, right? So he takes the succubasu, and then they fight a couple of years later, and he goes back to the plump woman. And I don't know if she had him back or not, but like, you can't punish NGOs, it's anti-Semitism. You don't put it like that, man. You're punishing the people driving the boats and funding it. Oh, regarding my game, it just got approved on Steam. So I'm happy with that. But now I need to get store approval. Like, normally it's the other way. Normally you get store approval and then you get the building approval. The build approval. So in other words, like, first they will approve your store page to see that you haven't written any hate speech there, to see that you're not showing any screenshots that aren't in the game. And then they try to approve the build itself. So when they go through the build, they want to see that, none of the characters are underage. They want to see that you don't have anything that violates Steam's TOS. They want to see that the game actually works and it's not a broken game and that there's actually gameplay there and it's not a scam. They want to see that it doesn't have malware, etc., etc. So normally you get the store page approved first, and then when the game is ready to ship, you get the store approval. But in the case of adult games, they do it differently. So in the adult game, because of the importance that all characters are over the age of 18, they want to review the build first, right? So I actually had to get a game that can be played from start to finish. It doesn't have everything in it, so it doesn't have all the voice acting, it doesn't have all the sound effects, it doesn't have, like, most of the stuff that the finished and the polished game will. It doesn't have, like, bug fixes and whatnot, but it is playable. Like, you can actually play the game from start to finish. And Steam approved it, but now I need to get the page approval. So after I get the page approval, we still have, like, a lot of content. Like, my god, I have over 500 interactions in the game, and they all have to be coded in. Like, we're also needing to do the game logic, which is basically like, if you spoke with this person and then you talk with another person, that other person needs to know that you spoke with the previous one. And then it's like, it's time consuming. It's not difficult. I only have one developer doing it. So it's very time consuming, and I also need to get the voice acting done. So I have the voice acting for, right now, for 2 succubis, half of the 3rd, and then I need to contact another voice actress for the 4th. So yeah, I'm trying. Like, I understand now why companies are, like, refusing to give estimates, like, when is it ready, because I don't want to release too soon. I don't want to do the early access bullshit. And I want to release a full product. So hopefully by December, if everything works well. But again, I don't know what can happen. Like maybe there's a bug that ruins something, and now we need to stay on that. Maybe there's a member of the team that gets sick. Maybe, I don't know, like, something can't get implemented properly. So like, it can push it away. But I am struggling. I'm doing my best to finish it by December. And once I finish it, I will have to work on a demo. The demo also needs to come out after the game is finished, because then the game is polished, there's no bugs, and on top of that, I can also have like a proper release, because if you release a bad demo, then people will play it and they will think the game itself is shit. So yeah. You can't wishlist my game yet. It has to get the store approval. The problem with Steam is that they respond very slowly. It usually takes them 1 week to respond, and they don't work on weekends. So it took me 2 weeks to get them to review the build. Hopefully the store, it will take less for them, but it depends, right? So if it takes the same amount, I would expect that I would get an answer by Friday, and then we'll do some marketing stuff. I do have a nice trailer for you guys, and we'll talk about that. Apparently, someone gave me... I don't believe this. Ready to hear something completely insane. Female porn models have realized that trans porn is such an incredible cash cow that they're now pretending to be transgender. And the males who identify as women are angry at them for identifying as males who identify as women. Okay, I don't know how true this is. But I do know that I think it was either in... No, it wasn't in China. I think it was in South Korea, where a VTuber pretending to be a femboy was ousted as being an actual woman, and fans were livid. And I was thinking about that scene from Mulan, where the general finds out that Mulan is an actual woman, and he feels betrayed. No, I don't think it's a cash cow. I think what's happening is very simple to explain. When you look at the adult content, right? Like the most... Like, the biggest amount of supply is just normal vanilla stuff, right? Like, it makes sense. Like, most people will just watch the normal vanilla. So if you're a content creator of that, if you're just doing normal vanilla, well, you're competing with hundreds of thousands of people. The competition is fierce, right? So, like, your video being found is quite difficult. Now, if you go into a niche, which is like transgenderism, well, you're competing with probably 1,000 people or so. Like, it's you know, like, the competition is different. And if you're also an actual hot chick, right, and you're passing, and people think you're trans, well, you're already climbing up to the top. So this is why they're doing it. It's the same reason why you saw a lot of women trying to pull adult stuff on Twitch, right? Like that meta where they would stream naked and the camera would be literally just above their breasts, so they don't show nipple. Or they had a censorship bar. Like, why do they do that? Like, why not just go on a platform that allows them to do the adult stuff? And the answer is because if they do go on the platform with the adult stuff, they're competing with hundreds of thousands of other content creators that do the same stuff, right? Some of them better looking. So they go on Twitch where no one else is doing that safe for work, and there's no competition there, right? So they will instantly just go all the way up to the top, and people see their face, news articles are written about them, people are like, oh, who is this chick? Looks like the Hulk. Oh, she's quite muscular. Oh, what can I find her, right? So then she gets banned on Twitch, but it doesn't matter because the publicity is already there and the people can transition all the way onto the other app. So that's my explanation for why it's happening. Less competition in that niche and the counterfeits don't look as good as the authentic ones. Yeah, again, like the way that the article is framed is that, well, it's like everyone is now looking for the transgenderism. Like that's the new rave. That's what everyone is searching for. And while it's true that some, like Alex Jones, have been caught delving into the dark arts, I don't think it has such a huge market appeal. If I remember correctly, the last time the numbers were released, I think like the biggest market appeal was 18. Like that was the biggest search that was in Europe. 18, right? So like teen. Vanilla, by the way. So it wasn't anything to do. But like now, I think like Pornhub just stopped releasing their top search results because there was like a time when they would, and you would see like every country like what they like. Barely legal. Was that a search? I don't think that was ever a search word. Anyway, right. I should go and make the videos for my other channels. Oh shit, it's already 10 o'clock. Yikes. Anyway, right. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care.